Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Are you happy to be in Lagos for MMC 7.0? Okay, wonderful. By a show of hands, how many people in the room are SMEs? And also by a show of hands, how many people in the room are trading locally and across borders? Okay, so no one is trading internationally in the room? Okay, wonderful. We are going to have a panel discussion on international trade and practical pathways for unlocking new trade corridors, both intra-African and globally. Over the last year, we've seen a huge shift in geopolitics, and it has affected trade and how it looks like quite a lot. From the Trump tariffs to the CBAM in Europe, global trade policies are changing how we trade, and the AfCFTA is here to also change how and what we trade on the African continent. I'm joined today by an amazing panel of industry leaders, founders, and people who are trading to explore some practical pathways and share a little bit more about how you can trade if you're in the room, and how you can scale your businesses, how you can enhance your export capacity, and how you can raise trade finance. I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves. So I don't spend too much time reading their bios, but I think what's important is, in a very short sentence, who they are, what they do, and how their work has allowed them to trade across the continent and also globally. I'll start with Eche.
Thank you, Latabo. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Eche Orji. I head business for Southern Africa region for Nepal, and business in Southern Africa region for Nepal Energies Limited. My background is in trade finance, banking, a bit of international operations, and technology.
Thank you. Ife.
Hi, my name is Ifedayo Agoro. I'm the CEO of Dang Lifestyle, right now the biggest skincare brand in Nigeria. We started in thank you. We started in 2020, started our skincare line in 2021, and we based off our company of a community of women who are not ashamed to tell their stories, who want to grow, who want to evolve, and these same women have been the backbone of Dang Lifestyle today. And since 2021 to today, Dang Lifestyle has sold over 800,000 units of product, and the community is widespread in the UK, USA, Ghana, Kenya, Canada, and the UK. Thank you very much.
Hi, good morning. My name is Bamidele Sean Awola, and I run a company called Welcome to Africa International, where I oversee three key companies. One is Welcome to Africa Connect, where we do investment and trade promotion around the world. Then it's Welcome to Africa Trade, where we currently buy and sell cocoa derivatives, as well as connect buyers and sellers around the world. And more recently, we've established Welcome to Africa Capital, where we're supporting founders to raise capital and a level of micro-lending as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Thank you. Bamidele, I want to come back to you. I always say that policy lays the foundation for how we do business, and it enables us to grow and unlock new pathways for trade. The AfCFTA entered into force in 2021, and there's been some challenges, or for some people, I'm an Afro-optimist, so I think the AfCFTA is like a magic wand that's going to change our continent. And realistically, the numbers of how we're trading intra-African haven't increased quite substantively, there are people who believe the AfCFTA isn't delivering on its promise. I think from your work and your perspective, what sort of policy gaps were missed in the drafting of the legal text and maybe the implementation strategies of the agreement? And how can we, develop and draft and formulate policies that sort of reduce some of the bottlenecks that we see persisting in, so enhancing intra-African trade flows?
So I think I'd want to kind of look at like the real issues. And the real issue, I think, would be infrastructure. I'll give a good example. I remember some time back, I was invited to go to Durban in South Africa. And I had to go to Turkey before I could get to Durban. And that's long. Whereas, it's just South Africa. Ideally, there should just be a direct flight. So quite often in trade and even in logistics and moving around, when we talk about intra-Africa trade, I think we should look at the actual real issues. How easy is it to go from Nigeria to a state in South Africa, for example? It's not that easy. It's easier to go to London. So if it's easier to go to London, why will I want to now say I want to do business in South Africa, for example? Okay, and even when we talk about trades within the African countries, we need to do more to invest in ports across different African countries, because quite often as well, if you want to ship using a vessel to Kenya, for example, you may still have to take that vessel to Europe and then back to Kenya. So I think we should look at the actual real issues. Yes, it's nice to trade within Africa, but then if it's too difficult to do so, and it's easier for me to trade in Dubai or Lithuania or wherever the case may be, then of course that is what would be prioritized. So I think just looking at the real issues, particularly around infrastructure, we need more infrastructure when we talk about trade within Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bamidele. I think you raise a very important point. When the AfCFTA was negotiated, the free movement of persons was removed from the agreement and placed separately because member states just were not really keen on the free movement of persons in Africa. And the reality is people move goods. Goods don't just move on their own. And so if we don't have the free movement of persons, it's going to be very hard to enhance intra-African trade and ultimately just see economic integration and economic collaboration, cooperation across borders. Ife, I want to come to you. So trade is about trust, it's about compliance, it's about credibility, it's about consistency. And you've grown a global business, you're exporting to some of the biggest markets in the world. What sort of practical steps do you have for entrepreneurs in this room who are manufacturing in Africa, making African-inspired products, on meeting global standards and maintaining buyer confidence?
Thank you. The first thing that I've noticed about us, Africans, Nigerians, is the hustle mentality. We just want to hustle rather than create a proper system. And so in the process of hustling, we put aside everything else that is important that will get us to that global stage. So your hustle will make you pay for certification without you being qualified. Hustle will let you neglect hiring the right people. Hustle will make you want to employ cheap. Those are the things that will never ever let anyone, grow to the global stage. I feel like when the hustle mentality at first is put away, and the first thought in your head is, am I going to create a sustainable, generational, long-standing business? How do I begin this? Then you start from actually creating a business and not a hustle. And one of the things that we need to do in this way first is that whatever it is that we're doing, you need to get your certification right, whatever business that you're in. Sometimes we get to a place in our businesses where we begin to get demands for this certification. And then you look funny, you look unserious, and you look unprofessional when you have not prepared for this or you even have the certification ready. a lot of times, especially, in Africa, when things are allowed to just go by because of who you know, or because the system is not so solid enough, for proper certification or people finding out what you're doing, you find out that you can get away with things easily. But when it's time to actually scale that business, to take it further, you find that you are not able to get in because you have put in the back burner your certification and everything else you need to grow that business. Another thing is building sustainability for your business. Again, I talked in the beginning about hiring right, about putting processes in your company whereby when you're ready to scale, we're ready to export to bigger territories, you know that your business can carry it. At the end of the day, you realize that when there's no process, even in your own company, there is no process globally. And so what do you have? Remember that, especially if you're looking for investors, if you're looking to scale, people who want to invest in you will ask you, they want to see what your business structure is, what your hiring structure is. At the end of the day, if you don't have that, you only have yourself as a business person, you will burn out, you will look unserious. All of these things just, fall back to you looking like you're not ready. And that's also not good for your business. Something else is also investing in the quality and the packaging of your product. I'm not sure people take that really seriously. Badly packaged products cannot survive exportation. It's not possible. There is no way you can finesse it. It will look messed up by the time it arrives at where it's going. And right now, where we are all on a global, we all can see each other. Social media, digital space has made us see everything else that is happening in the other side of the world. You can see that your packaging compared to other global brands don't look so good. Why do you not try to make it look better? So look better, be better, not only look better. So you need to invest in proper packaging to make sure that as you transport them, export them, they are able to stand the test of time and they are able to properly compete with all those other brands that you're going to meet in those other, territories. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think what's coming in quite strong for me from Ife's intervention is that systems are going to eat strategy for breakfast anytime, all the time. And so you can have great ideas, but if you don't have the right systems in place, you're not going to survive or compete in the marketplace with people who do have the right systems in place. I'm going to come back to you, Eche, on systems. Nepal Energies is a Pan-African business, and you've expanded into Southern Africa. I think it's the kind of systems that Ife is talking about that allow a business to expand into new markets. What kind of systems and structures have helped and will help businesses that are looking to enter new markets and expand across the continent? And indeed, globally, I think we always think of African brands as just African brands. I think it's Africa to the world and Africa to Africa.
Thanks, Letabo. Your question is a bit complex and requires a complex answer, but I'll try to keep it simple. So for Nepal Energies, as an example of a Nigerian business going international and going into a new region, I would say the first major step is a mindset shift. And that mindset shift has to go from where you are, knowing what you know, on learning that and learning new things. Going into the Southern Africa region has been revealing for us. The standards are different, processes are different, policies are different, and I would say it needs some patience too, because you need to be able to learn cultures, learn nuances, learn how people behave. You need to learn how people view their businesses. You also need to learn local policies. You need to understand how operations work, and the Southern Africa region is quite integrated. So we have some landlocked countries. There's just so much to learn. So it's about unlearning what you already know and keeping an open mind to learn new things and try to bring in the best global standards you can. There's also the aspect of learning, having a wide range of, or access to a wide range of policies and procedures. Every day, our team, we learn, we read stuff, we learn, we try to bring in innovation, we try to disrupt the market a little and ensure that we do things better than the people that have been there before. So just a small piece of advice for anyone trying to move into other markets, especially the Southern Africa market. I think you need to be very patient and you need to unlearn everything you know and just go there as a blank slate. Give it some time, and I think with that attitude, you'll be able to survive in a new environment.
Thank you so much. Bamidele, we've spoken a bit about market access, market expansion, and even trade standards. I think for decades now, the continent has been talking about changing what we trade. I think if we're going to enhance intra-African trade, we not only have to change how we trade, we need to change what we trade, because it's highly unlikely that we're going to be buying raw materials from each other. And so the heavy reliance on raw material exports is right now maybe profitable and the anchor of a lot of African economies. But if we want to see real economic impact, real jobs, real industries, we'll have to start thinking of value addition. What sort of practical interventions, whether it be regulatory, financial, and even technical, do you think we need to look into as a continent to change not only how we trade, but what we trade?
Thank you. So I am actually guilty of exporting raw materials. Okay. However, in as much as I'm guilty of it, I'm guilty of it knowing that we are going to begin to add value to what we export. So I think, first of all, it starts with a mindset. So even though, yes, we are exporting raw commodities from Nigeria, we're still doing it with the mindset that, okay, when we make more money, we're now going to buy the machineries that we need to kind of add value to these things. So there's a mindset, okay, because, you know, exporting raw materials is easier, it's quicker, you get your money fast. You don't have to deal with a lot of things that comes with manufacturing. So there's a mindset. Another thing as well is also as it relates to kind of building, as a country, Nigeria, and we're already doing that, and we do that through Welcome to Africa Connect, building stronger bridges with countries that have already industrialized. It's an opportunity for them because, of course, it's an opportunity for them to sell their machines and the likes. So that's another thing that as a country, we should do, build stronger bridges with those that have already industrialized. So there's the mindset issue. There's the, you know, working with countries that already have industrialized. And there's also the issue of finance as well. And it is actually profitable to export processed goods. So for example, in our case, one of the things that we export is cocoa waste. It's the waste of the cocoa. And I went to the factory that we sell it to in Europe, and all they do is just clean it. So they clean it and then they sell it for like 10 times what they bought it from us, just because all they're doing is cleaning it. So of course, I'm now thinking, yes, I need to, that thing that they're using to clean it, I need to get it, okay. So of course, but then of course you need money to get it. So we do now have some mini cleaning machines, but it takes longer, okay, to clean the goods. But again, it's the mindset, like I said, doing your research to understand the countries or where you can buy these machines in the first place. And then of course, the financing of it as well. So there's multiple factors involved, but I think the first one is just the mindset that, okay, how do we go from exporting raw commodities to processed commodities?
So you speak a lot about ties with people in other countries and how that helps with your trade relations, learning and seeing what they do. I'll share an experience. So we had a contract this year, and we were exporting avocados from South Africa to a pack house in the UK. And there's two pathways. The first pathway we explored was with the multinational. We pick the avocados, same farmers in Amsterdam. And we were paying 200% more than it was to actually go into Zanin, which is a small little town in Limpopo, in northeast of South Africa. We paid 200% less for the avocados by just developing a pack house where we get from farm, we pack on site, we box on site, we put them on containers, and they land straight in the UK. So I think there is value in finding ways to even just clean and pack in Africa, and not collect African products in another European country, to another European country, and pay a huge margin for them. I want to speak about cultural ties. South Africa has experienced quite an interesting relationship with the country that Ife currently lives in. And I want to maybe explore the role of the diaspora in helping Africans on the continent explore new opportunities, new trade routes, new collaborations with other Africans in the diaspora.
So I think I'll take this question because I can be considered as a diaspora that has come back. So I was born and raised in the UK, and I've been living in Abuja now for like 5, 6, 7 years now. So when we talk about diaspora, it's also a mindset as well. Not everybody wants to come back, and that's fine. It's quite hard to live in Africa, especially if you've been living in the UK, soft life, things work. So I think it's first of all a mindset. You have to be willing to overcome the challenges associated with living in Nigeria first, okay? And then I think there's also an information gap, okay? Right now, I remember one time a friend of mine called me from the UK, and he was like, "Oh my God, I heard there's a food security and food crisis in Nigeria. How are you surviving?" And I was just like, "I just come from the restaurant. I'm good. I had really good food." So I think there's an information gap where people have this impression that anywhere you go in Nigeria now, there's a war, and I know I'm not trying to downplay the crisis that does exist, but then it's not as bad as sometimes the media has made it seem. So for the diaspora, that's and I think now that we're approaching Dirty December and all of that, the diaspora that are coming in, this is an opportunity for them to say, okay, where and how can they plug into the Nigerian ecosystem? But again, it's still a mindset. It's easier to come and do your Dirty December and go back to London than come and you're not sure if you're gonna get light or whatever the case may be. So I think it's a mindset and of course passion. You have to be quite passionate. My mom lives in the UK, my siblings live in the UK, and they're always like, "Oh, why are you still there?" But then, of course, I'm quite passionate about being in Nigeria. So it's a mindset, I would say, and of course, being passionate about wanting to stay and contribute.
At the back of what you said, that's coming home, right? What about like people who are over there, right? Because what we have to do when we are Nigerians, I'm so sure of, when Nigerians like you, or like your product, wherever they are in the world, they will sell your product for you. So I believe that if us as Nigerians, us as Africans can take full advantage of our people in the diaspora, they will do half of the job for you. Of course, you have to create a system, you have to have good product, you have to have amazing packaging, you have to ship on time, those things on one side. But then these people who love your product, will, word of mouth, will come to your pop-ups and all of those things. So I feel, based on our experience at Dank, we have used our community in the diaspora so well. When we are promoting, we invite them to pop up. We had a pop-up in London, had a pop-up in Dallas, and we saw an increase in our sale and revenue because we brought them in and told them, bring 2 people, bring 3 people, and we encourage them to buy gifts for their friends. In Canada, our sale has gone up because we had a campaign where we told them, buy for your friend and get, 20% off, that kind of thing. So I believe very strongly that if we recognize our people in the diaspora and put them to work, especially when you have good products, when you have created a customer-centric brand, these people are the ones that will do half of the job for you. And what you have to do is make sure that you create a good system and in your company to be able to meet the demand that they're able to create for you.
If you knew what I was going to ask you next. So you spoke to it, and I wanted to ask, you've built a large digital community, and I think your brand has also built a community off of making women, African women, feel seen and feel like they have a space where we can have honest conversations about products that work for us and products that don't. How have you leveraged digital channels to build a community, but not for the sake of community, but build a community also for your brand and reach people across the world through that community and continue to tell your brand story, to speak of some of the things that we face as women. I know your community explores more than just your brand. You speak about being a wife, you speak about moving to America, but how has that helped you grow a community that supports you and your business?
I believe that digital infrastructure is such an amazing tool to collapse distance. Like you feel like, oh, somebody is in Australia and you're in Nigeria and you're just so far away from them. With digital infrastructure, you can just break that down really quickly, especially when you do your research. Our marketing team are fantastic in recognizing what's trending in Ghana, what's trending in the UK, what's trending. So they take advantage of those things. When we do our email marketing, we just send emails, use whatever lingua is trending at the time. Because the truth is, language is a barrier if you don't use it properly. If we went into, for example, let me say Kenya right now, we cannot be selling, or Tanzania, we are not selling products. We're letting them know we see what they're going through. We are so sorry for their trouble. Those things are very important when you're trying to break down a distance when it comes to, getting into new territories. So for us at DANG, that's what we have done. We have looked into our territories. We celebrate their holidays with them. If America is shipping 5 to 7 business days, you have to ship 5 to 7 business days. If this is the type of language they like to hear, you have to use that language for them, because every system is different, but people like to be treated well, no matter what country you're in. The first thing they want to know is they want to be heard, they want to feel seen, and they want to know that you treat them well. And we do that very well at DANG, but in the language that they will hear. If you are doing business elsewhere and you're treating that country like Nigeria, it's going to probably fail. So I believe very strongly in treating communities as they are, or treating them the same as a global community, but using the language that they will hear to treat them. Another thing, you can buy a whole billboard in the largest, biggest roads in these countries. They will never sell as much product as probably micro-influencers or macro-influencers. I think that as business people, we are so hung up on using big influencers that we forget that the big influencers, people have become so jaded with them, but the micro-influencers are more excited, they cost you less, and they will always be believed by their followers, because what's there to lose? So I believe that we have learned to spend less money. This is why our EBITDA is quite high, I'm very proud to say, because we have learned how to use small money to earn big results. So instead of spending too much money on big influencers, on big billboards, TV commercials, start first from the ground up with micro-influencers, macro-influencers, pop-ups. Those things just break the gap in communication and in the distance that that can create, especially if you are not from the home country of the brand country that you're trying to, push your brand into.
Speaking of digital platforms, I think they've created a lot of awareness for Africans on, what's happening on our continent, what's happening in our economy. I think maybe 10 years ago, a lot of people didn't care about what's happening in the energy sector. And now a lot of Africans know that there's some kind of energy transition that maybe Africa is being forced into. Is it just? Is it not? But I think the internet and digital platforms have given us so much access, so much information, and so much knowledge. Just coming back to the energy space, I want to ask you, Eche, from an African perspective, the AfCFTA sort of has unlocked unprecedented trade opportunities. It's a market of 1.4 billion people, $3.4 trillion. What does that look like for the energy sector, one? And secondly, how do we use energy to develop our continent from an industrial perspective? How do we ensure energy security before we rush into an energy transition?
Thanks, Latabo. So I'll take your second question first. That's about ensuring energy security and transition. Almost everybody knows about green initiatives in different countries, the Western world, pushing for the green initiatives, carbon credits, and how to generally reduce our carbon footprint around the world. However, for us in Africa, we're not there yet. We're pushing towards that. And those technologies, the green technologies, are quite expensive. But Africa still needs to develop. And because Africa needs to develop, we still need a lot of energy security. So a lot of countries, a lot of companies, businesses need to find a balance, a trade-off between security and sustainability, for lack of a better word, between security and sustainability of energy. So I think Africa will still need a lot of fossils for the near future while we try to transition into green energy. We have to just strike that balance and ensure that energy is available for development. Now, to your second question about the AfCFTA, which, just like you, I think is a miracle. It's a miracle initiative. It's a fantastic initiative. They're the event partners here. And I think for those who don't know about it, it's very laudable. It has its challenges. It's going through phases, and it's improving every day. But the aim is for African countries to be able to trade freely or at least seamlessly between each other. And in that energy space, we see that happen a lot, intra-Africa trade. So Nepal in Southern Africa moves products from different parts. We've moved from Nigeria down to Southern Africa. We've had a lot of challenges, which we're hoping that the AfCFTA will address in time. You have quality differences of petroleum products. You have pricing structures that are different. You have logistics different. You have so many differences, and even the currencies. The currencies are different. And there's something else the AfCFTA has pushed forward, which I don't know if many people are aware of, which is called PAPS, the Pan-African Payment System. It's supposed to ease intra-Africa trade, and it has its challenges too. But if we could sit down as African countries to sort out these challenges, they're not very easy because almost every country has its unique challenges. But if we can do that, we solve a huge, major problem for intra-Africa trade. I mean, trading is buying and selling. You use cash, you use money to buy, and you sell to get money. So that integrated payment system is very, very essential for intra-Africa trade. And I think AfCFTA is at the forefront of that, and the future looks very bright for us in Africa.
Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else in the room noticed that the CEO of PAPS was actually here earlier. So Mentor Matchup Challenge really is the place to be. Well done, Ezine and the team, for bringing the right stakeholders in the room. Don't miss the opportunity to network and meet people, mentors, mentees, collaborators, and partners to grow yourself both personally and professionally and otherwise. For the next 2 minutes, we're going to pretend Africa is one big country. And for one day, my panelists are the presidents of Africa as one big country. And I want to know what's one big intervention that they would take on to transform the future of Africa as a country's trade. I'll start with you, Bami.
I was hoping that you'll start with my sister here. Well, so I think for me, if I was to do one thing, and it's something that we do already, is perhaps changing the perception of Africa in the first place. I think if we change the perception of the continent collectively, then of course we'll attract even more investments, there'll be more trade, and of course, you know, there could be that mutually beneficial development across the countries in Africa. So I think one thing we do need to collectively do is changing the perception of the continent globally, and that would be one thing.
Bamidele, as president, is changing the perception. There is a study by Africa Practice into actually how much money in billions of dollars we lose every year because of perceptions as a continent. And because of perceptions, we lose a lot of investments into the continent. So I think that's a great intervention. I'll go to you, Ife. One day as president, and you're going to change one big thing about the continent's trade.
Okay, so I feel like Mami and I can be presidents together, because she said one part I really love. But what I would like to do is create proper manufacturing system per region. Our trade corridor is so complicated that we cannot, as one African country, have one manufacturing system. So we have to create it per region, just so that it will be easy to access at the ports. For example, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, and all of these, West African countries. Same with Southern, Eastern, so that we are not importing raw materials from, outside of the continent, which makes it so expensive. I think it's ridiculous. She mentioned that you bring in raw materials, process, take it back. It's just a very expensive process. Because of how divided Africa is, the trade ports are difficult. I don't even know if there's another word worse than difficult. It's so difficult. It's more expensive for me to send package from Nigeria to South Africa than it is for me to send packaging from Nigeria to the UK or even the USA. It makes no sense. I don't think that we are actually putting all of these things into consideration right now. So if I were president, I would definitely put proper manufacturing system in place where they are going to be in regions, so that it's easy for us to trade better in trade corridors according to our regions.
Amazing. Ife is developing our manufacturing base and our value chains. I think that's so important. You raise a really important point there on the cost of shipping a container in Africa is 40% higher than the global average. And so, the right infrastructure, developing those value chains will help us reduce those trade costs and allow us to facilitate trade more efficiently. Eche, you're president of Africa for a day. What are you doing for our trade trajectory?
I think as president for a day, two things I'll do. First of all, if I haven't adopted the AfCFTA and PAPS, I will quickly adopt that, because the vision is very good. And the vision will really unite Africa. And the my second action will be to charge the banks in Africa, all the banks, all the types of banks, from the local banks to the multinational banks, to have a different view about finance and access to finance. There's so many African businesses that could do a lot in terms of finance, and especially infrastructure finance. So there's infrastructure finance, there's SME finance, there's corporate finance. The bank should do a lot more. We have a lot of SMEs, a lot of businesses that struggle. And one of the reasons why Nepal is able to enter the Southern Africa region, stay in the Southern Africa region and thrive, it's largely due to access to finance. So if every African business can have some access to finance, no matter what tier of business you are, I think I'll charge everybody, central banks, DFIDs, local banks, commercial banks, everybody should give businesses access to finance.
Thank you so much. Our time is up. Thank you so much for joining the session, and the panelists will be in the mentorship room for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So if you want to speak to Ife, Eche, or Bamidele, please meet them at the back of the room for a mentorship session. I am personally going to ask Ife again about the crazy things she's done for work. Thank you so much.